the viewers joining us from across the world. I'm Nidhi Kumar, your host for today's show. We're extremely excited to bring to you the Eat Right India initiative of the FSSAI and supported by Herbalife Nutrition. We're grateful to Herbalife Nutrition for supporting us in all our endeavors, also acknowledging our broadcasting partners, the Josh app, Mitro app, Daily Hunt, and One India. Well, friends, it's getting crazier than anybody ever thought, and there's no getting away from it. All those advocates of eating healthy, eating right, and eating clean are trying new stuff every day, be it food, supplements, or diet. But before it gets convoluted, we are attempting today to simplify it. We'll talk about the essentials of good nutrition, lifestyle, gynae-related problems, and rejuvenating life naturally, and wellness combos, of course. And let me introduce to you our very eminent guest for today's session, Dr. Lavleena Nadir, who's a senior consultant gynecologist and obstetrician, uh, um, predominantly practicing at Fortis La Femme, Greater Kailash, New Delhi. She has deep interest in nutrition and has spoken as a wellness expert at many conferences. Welcome, Lavleena ji. Such a
Thank
pleasure
you,
to have
Nidhi.
you here with us today.
Thank you, Nidhi.
So a very generic question to begin with. In the past, say 100 years back or 50 years back, since independent India, no one was aware of nutrition, of the calories, of the carbohydrates, the proteins and such concepts, yet they were less sick. Today, with so much information, there is an epidemic of diseases and ill health. Why?
Okay. So, what happens is back in 1990s, half of the deaths were coming from communicable, neonatal, maternal, and nutritional causes, such as anemia, tuberculosis, and diarrhea. But now there is increasing incidence of non-communicable diseases. For example, that time, most of the deaths were because of this. They are decreased because of infections, but still we can account 1/3 of the deaths due to those causes. But in modern India, in modern times, 50% of population is at the risk of developing diabetes, hypertension, cancer, and obesity. So, there is a study in the Lancet. It was done by Global Disease Burden, and it was published in 2013. And it was seen that only 4.3% people had no medical problems, but 95% people are suffering from at least 5 ailments. So, it is the modern lifestyle, the sedentary lifestyles, aging population, all that is adding to the burden, stress, lack of sleep. So these are the factors, which is leading to all this epidemic today.
Absolutely. And if we talk of nutrition, on one hand, India has a large number of malnutrition cases. And on one hand, we have obesity, like you rightly mentioned. So can you tell us about what nutrition means to you? How do you sort of define nutrition?
Okay, yeah. So nutrition is everything. Nutrition is about delivering the vital nutrients that the body needs to function at optimum levels, but they are not consumed in the sufficient quantities. Due to modern lifestyle, there is suboptimal intake of nutrients, and modern diet is full of refined carbohydrates, sugars, and it is lacking in essential vitamins and antioxidants, and that leaves us deficient in key nutrients which are required to decrease the risk of chronic diseases. So taking nutrition or taking dietary supplements can go a long way in overcoming these chronic lifestyle diseases. It can meet the higher nutritional needs of more demanding lifestyle or certain medical conditions. It can correct the deficiencies of modern lifestyle. Then there are, chemicals, preservatives, there are depleted soils. So, it's everything is causing a deep imbalance in our food supply. Let me give you an example. In 1950, our spinach had 157 milligram of iron per 100 grams. Today, it has 2.7 milligram of iron. So you can see how depleted our soils and food supply is. So nutrition and supplementation is something which can gives us an answer, to our modern day challenges, and it can really make great strides in correcting these imbalances.
You mentioned soil, and I'm so happy you did that because soil consciousness is something that Sadhguru always talks about. And I greatly follow that. And that is what is one of the reasons. And we must talk about this as well.
Very,
But you also mentioned supplements.
yes.
Uh, Ma'am, I'd like to ask you in supplements, doctor, there is a requirement of vitamins, proteins, potassium, iodine, everything. How
Yeah.
do you look at this landscape?
Absolutely. See, certain groups require more nutrition. And as I said, there is some optimal intake of these nutrients. So, modern lifestyle, it has creates different demands on different population groups. For example, children, they require more vitamin C, vitamin D, and iron. And pregnant women will require iron, calcium, and folate. Vegans will require B12 and vitamin D. Similarly, elderly people will require calcium, vitamin D. So, nutrition and supplementation um, uh, fills that gap which is there because of taking inadequate supply of micronutrients. In fact, in the modern times, there is deficiency of micronutrients like iron, calcium, zinc, selenium, magnesium, and iodine, and that is leading to various lifestyle problems. So supplementation with micronutrients can go a long way in creating wellness.
Very true. Ma'am, your insights on how one can curb cravings, specifically sugar cravings.
Yes, absolutely. Deficiencies of certain minerals like zinc, chromium, iron, calcium, magnesium leads to more sugar cravings. And magnesium deficiency is specifically linked to this. So, what we need to do is drink a glass of water, because we generally confuse thirst with hunger. So, whenever you feel hungry, just have water and the craving will disappear. We need to just eat a fruit. In the craving will disappear. We need to avoid artificial sweeteners. We can have diet with more protein, because protein, gives you satiety. It reduces cravings. It keeps us full. We can talk to a friend. I mean, we have to uh, be free of distractions. Sometimes we are bored, or sometimes we are sitting in front of TV, or we are scrolling through our phones, and these distractions, you don't even know, and you keep on eating. So we need to avoid these distractions. We need to sleep well, because there are hormonal fluctuations happening throughout the day, and these hormonal fluctuations, they regulate our diet and appetite patterns. So if we are not sleeping well, it affects the hormonal fluctuations, and we tend to get more cravings. So it is better we sleep well. We avoid excess stress, because stress releases cortisol, and that increases cravings, and you can put on weight. And of course, we have to avoid certain triggers. So we have to avoid sugary drinks. Sometimes health drinks also have a lot of sugar. So we need to be careful. We don't need to drink up our calories. So these are some ways where we can decrease sugar cravings. But of course, we have to fight stress. We have to eat enough calories. We have to eat nutrient dense foods. And we have to stop obsessing over calories. We have to eat to maintain our blood sugars and maintain a healthy body weight.
Yes, ma'am. You just explained a lot about sedentary lifestyle. I'd like you to add further light to this by telling us about lifestyle disorders.
So lifestyle disorders include, diabetes. Type 2 diabetes is a modern lifestyle, absolutely. PCOD in teenagers, hypertension, lot of cancers, all are as a result of sedentary lifestyle and bad eating habits, smoking, alcohol, everything predisposes us to these lifestyle diseases. So regular balanced diet, which is rich in adequate protein, enough of fiber, we have to take enough of fluids, we have to take our supplements, we have to do regular exercise and limit alcohol and smoking. And that all decreases the incidence of these chronic lifestyle diseases. And science says that exercise also has an important role. 80% role is due to nutrition, what we eat, and 20% is the exercise, which affects our lifestyle. So we need to do 30 minutes of aerobics, 15 minutes of resistance, and 15 minutes of strength training, and that will keep us overall well-being.
Absolutely. Another important question that is staring at us in the face these days is about milk. It
Mhm.
was considered an elixir earlier. Now, some people even call it a poison. What is the reality?
See, I don't think it's a poison because milk is the cheapest source of protein and calcium, and you can get it in every Indian household. And we have grown on dairy, and I think India, every household has milk. So only very few people are lactose intolerant. Actually, for to be lactose intolerant, you cannot have ice cream, you cannot have butter, you cannot have cheese, you cannot have anything because everything has lactose. So having milk gives you protein, gives you calcium, it gives you hydration. So I think milk is not a poison, and one must consume milk. Of course, it should not be adulterated, and we should have pure milk as far as possible because it's a good source of protein.
Yes, ma'am. You mentioned selenium a little while back.
Yeah.
So eggs, whole eggs are best here,
Yes. Yes.
and so much of iodine is also there in the yolk, while the
Mhm.
whites are full of protein. So it's a
Yeah.
good intake. But tell us a little about fish, all seafood, including salmon, tuna, shrimp.
Yes,
What
lean meat and poultry is a very good source of protein. Okay, so one must consume, we have to replace fatty meat with lean meat and poultry. So all the seafood is very good as a protein source.
what about low glycemic grains and gluten-free grains? So what is your insight on these?
Yes, you see, very little population is got gluten allergy in India. Those for them it is okay, and we have lot of high protein other grains other than gluten, like quinoa is a good grain. We have ragi, we have amaranth. So one can consume that provided we have a gluten allergy. So, but we have to consume whole grains basically, which are adequate in fiber, and that means complex carbohydrates. Stay away from refined carbohydrates because there are two types of carbohydrates. Simple carbohydrates can get converted to blood sugar after we ingest them and causes blood sugar swings, and they are known as high glycemic index foods. But low glycemic index foods are complex carbohydrates, which are god made foods, which we can eat raw, like raw fruits and vegetables and whole grains. They have a low glycemic index, they don't cause rapid blood sugar swings, and they are healthier to eat. So we must consume all multigrains.
Absolutely. Doctor, your body needs a regular supply of nutrients to grow, replace worn out tissues, and to provide energy. How do you get this whole picture incorporated?
Yeah, so we must try to, there are a lot of components to this, to lead a healthy lifestyle, because we have to stay away from refined carbohydrates, sugars, and we must stay away from diets which are loaded up with added salt, fats, and sugars. So basically what we need to do is take 30% of protein, 30% of healthy fats, and 40% of complex carbohydrates. This is what global nutrition philosophy says. And when we cut short for a layman, it boils down to 1 gram of fat per kg, 2 grams of protein per kg body weight, and 3 grams of complex carbohydrates per kg body weight. In addition to this, we must take adequate water. We must plan our meals. If we plan our meals, then there is no uncertainty or spontaneity, and you don't just go for whatever is there in the fridge. So we must plan our meals. We must avoid getting very hungry. If we are very hungry, then we tend to binge. We should never go shopping on an empty stomach. We must have our meals and then go. Otherwise, these days supermarkets are loaded with foods, and when you're hungry, you just tend to consume them. We have to practice mindful eating. That means keep our distractions away, reduce screen time. To be on the dining table is a very good way to do mindful eating. We need to taste every bite. We must take time to chew our food because digestion starts in the mouth. We must savor the taste because if we are in a hurry, we are going to gulp down more food and consume more calories, and we are not going to feel full immediately because satiety center takes about 15-20 minutes to get activated. So if we have a salad before the main meal, if we have a glass of water before the main meal and eat slowly and do mindful eating, we can decrease this. Then we have to avoid restrictive diets. Sometimes, you go on these yo-yo diets and, we try to just avoid our favorite foods. I don't think it's a good idea. Telling yourself that you can never eat your favorite food, it, I think, leads you to a failure. So, make room for appropriate indulgence, but on a daily basis, if we eat in moderation and, have our favorite food once in a while, that's a good way to lead an active, healthy lifestyle. Allow yourself to give your favorite food. Eat to manage your blood sugar. That means you must have adequate fiber in your diet. And we must try to maintain our healthy body weight. So the small things, they go a long way in maintaining our weight. We have to set up meaningful goals, like maybe getting into an old dress. And most important, I want to say, is we should not compare ourselves to celebrities and models, because we need to lead an active, healthy lifestyle and we don't have to copy them. We need to be realistic. We need to snack smart. We have to fill our voids. And most important, make time for ourselves. Our health has to be the topmost priority.
Absolutely. I agree on all these counts. And I'd like to ask you, just mentioned diets. There's so many fancy diets these days. But what is your take on intermittent fasting or fasting in general?
Okay. See, fasting has a wide array of benefits, but I am talking of once in a while fasting. So if we do once in a while fasting, it can help with our weight control. It can help with our blood sugar control. It can help us with heart health, brain health, cancer prevention. But of course, if we do a lot of fasting or frequent fasting, then one can have anemia, one can have muscle weakness, one can have loss of immunity. It affects our immune system. We can have deficiencies, nutritional deficiencies, and of course it can cause irregular heartbeat. So prolonged fasting is definitely not recommended. Intermittent fasting is good because it gives you time to digest food, but then people, they do their own ways of doing intermittent fasting, which can be really harmful at times. So I suggest whenever we go on such a diet, we must consult our medical practitioner, because if we have comorbidities or diseases, then it can harm us. If one is diabetic and we go on doing intermittent fasting, it can harm us. It can cause low blood sugar. It can cause hypotension, because diabetics need frequent meals, to maintain blood sugar. So if we have comorbidities, then we have to consult our doctor first. But fad diets, I believe one cannot stick to them. So restrictive diets are not good, because it leads to yo-yo dieting, and whatever you manage to lose, you pick up again.
It
So
comes
I
back
don't,
again.
it comes back, because diets are energy sapping and you cannot maintain them. And so Herbalife, I love, because you can have your favorite foods, you can have your balanced meal, and you can still maintain weight, and you can still be more energetic, and see how energetic I feel.
Very true. On that note, I'd like to ask you about pregnancy challenges like insomnia, fatigue, excessive maternal weight, and pelvic pain.
Right. So see, pregnancy is a amazing time for a woman, and but they are going to a roller coaster of emotions, especially in the first trimester, because there is nausea, vomiting, excessive vomiting. You are tired. There is, pregnancy changes. One can have pain in the breast. One can have pain in the lower back, pain in lower abdomen. All the ligaments are loose, so you have all this problem. You can have reflux, acidity, heartburn. So, one is feeling very low. But if one takes healthy diet, one does regular exercise and take supplements, then one can have a smooth pregnancy. It is not a challenge. You see, it is not a disease For centuries, women have been delivering babies. So only if we take care of our diet and exercise and medication, one can have a smooth pregnancy. It is not so big, but yes, of course, pregnancy comes with its own challenges. So weight management is very important. There are a lot of myths, like since you mentioned overweight in pregnancy. So generally people think since they are pregnant, they're supposed to eat for two, but that's wrong, because we just need 300 extra calories during pregnancy and during breastfeeding. So if we take those calories from protein, from healthy diet, from nuts, from seeds, from fruits, vegetables, one can, gain ideal weight. And we expect 12 to 15 kgs weight gain during pregnancy, approximately 4 to 5 kgs in every trimester. Because if one gets overweight, then you are more prone to gestational diabetes, that is means developing diabetes during pregnancy. You're more prone to developing gestational hypertension, that means developing high blood pressure during pregnancy and predisposing one to preeclampsia. And so all those complications of pregnancy are there if one gets overweight. And we must take care of what we eat during pregnancy. And regular exercise has a big role because it helps you to maintain posture, it tones the muscles, it supports your pelvic floor muscles, it will give you more energy, it will help the baby to descend down, it will correct the position of the baby. So it is very, very important, and it will help you to gain ideal weight and also help you to lose weight immediately after delivery. And it helps good sleep. So everything is a combination of good diet and good exercise during teens, during pregnancy, during lactation, during perimenopause, during menopause. Active, healthy lifestyle is the solution for women's needs.
So well answered. Absolutely. I agree with all the points that you said, but there are queries from a lot of people these days that how do you really get fit after pregnancy? So what should that kind of diet be that helps you, come back to your normal weight?
Of course. So you see, the aim is optimum recovery. The aim is, to get back, reclaim your body shape, to get back your strength, get back the energy, get back your stamina, and get back to original weight. So everything has to start gradually. Of course, as I said, balanced nutrition is very important. It is not important to take lot of fat after delivery, as it's a culture in India. It is good to take a balanced diet with adequate protein, with adequate milk, dairy products, with adequate nuts and seeds, micronutrients and supplements, iron, calcium, and vitamin minerals. So that's very important. One must not hurry up in doing it, because the pregnancy changes take 6 weeks to revert or come back to its normal size. So if one has to start, they have to start slowly, not before 4 weeks post delivery. They can start with basic walking, which is a very good exercise. They can start with mild yoga, and then slowly they can increase from low intensity to moderate intensity exercise. And of course, all the time we have to maintain our hydration, because mother is feeding, so it is very, very important. And similarly, we must take just 300 extra calories. One doesn't have to, take in too much calories because we are breastfeeding, but we must take our vitamin D, which is very, very important. We must take our supplements, iron, calcium, B complex, along with healthy, balanced diet. That's the way to get back to the normal shape.
Like you rightly said, ghee and panjiri ke laddus, and this is the culture in India after pregnancy, and you're really fed with all these things instead of the right combination that you need to lose weight. Here, doctor, I'd like you to also elucidate on pre-menopause and post-menopause requirements, especially in women. What are the things that come to your mind? Because there's a lot of blood loss and stress. What are the things that would be advisable from the nutrients and the micronutrients point of view?
So see, perimenopause is a phase which lasts up till menopause, till the periods actually stop. And it may last for 5 to 10 years before we actually get menopause. and it is associated with irregular bleeding, intermenstrual bleeding. It is associated with fatigue. See, as long as estrogen is there, we are getting our periods regularly. Estrogen supports our muscle mass and bone density. But when we enter this phase of perimenopause leading to menopause, we start losing our bone density and muscle mass. So there is tendency to weight gain. There is a tendency to gain fat. Since we are losing our muscle mass, there is back pain, there is muscle weakness, there is fatigue, there is sleeplessness, there is stress, there are hot flashes, there are cold sweats, and all these things continue even after menopause. So the solution to this is, again, as I said, active, healthy lifestyle. The diet plays a great role. We have to take a well-balanced diet with adequate protein. 30% protein is very essential because it is going to maintain our muscle mass. Plus, we need healthy fats. Healthy fats means omega-3 fatty acids, which is going to keep our heart healthy. And it is required for the brain, for our heart, for our joints, for everything. So we must have 30% of good fats, because what mistake we do is we just cut out on fat. But what I want to say is there are certain vitamins like vitamin A, D, E, K, which are all absorbed only if there is good fat in our body. So we cannot cut out on fats. We need 30% of good fats. And of course, we need complex carbohydrates. We need whole grains, and we need adequate hydration, because muscles get tired if we don't drink enough water. The most common cause of weight gain is not having enough water. Most common cause of headache during perimenopause and menopause is not having enough water. Most common cause of weight gain, headache, feeling tired is lack of water. So we have to consume adequate water, maintain hydration. We have to take calcium. We have to take vitamin D. We have to take multivitamins. We have to take all the ingredients which are going to give us micronutrients, because that is what is going to lead us to well-being. Suboptimal intake of micronutrients creates a lot of problem. So we have to take care of that, take adequate iron. We have to take foods fortified with iodine, and we have to decrease salt, because sometimes salt can lead to hypertension. It can lead to water retention. So we have to restrict our salt intake. We have to restrict our sugar intake, because that can predispose you to developing lifestyle diseases. And we have to do exercise, moderate intensity exercise. We must have support groups, find a friend if one cannot stick to the routine. We must have social groups, because well-being, health is a state of physical, mental, social, spiritual, and sexual well-being. So we need wellness at all levels. So we need support groups. The socialization is very important, and we must do exercise with them, whether it is dance, whether it is walking, whether it is gymming, whether it is strength training, whatever one likes, it has to be added to the lifestyle. And so we have to fill the voids, and make time for ourselves. And meditation and mindfulness has a great role. And we have to cut back our negative thoughts, replace our negative thoughts. It's very, very important to find happiness. We have to cut out our negative thoughts and replace with positive thoughts, practice gratitude, practice mindfulness, and we have to buddy up, don't deprive yourself. And health is the most important. And have me time, and get out there, out in the open, get some sunshine. It's important to get vitamin D, and take your supplements. And I want to say here that soya products are very useful, because soy has natural phytoestrogens. Phyto means plant, and estrogen is the hormone which gets depleted during our perimenopause and menopause. And we are so blessed at Herbalife, because all our meal replacement shakes and protein shakes have main soya protein, which has phytoestrogens. And we have a lot of products for women's health, which take care of our, we have isoflavones and phytoestrogens in Woman's Choice, and we have all our women related. Everything Herbalife has, like calcium, we have omega-3 fatty acids, we have probiotics, because probiotics are very important. 2600 years ago, it was said that everything starts from our gut, and it is
Yes,
so true today.
so true.
So we need to take care of our intestinal health. So we have probiotics, we have aloe to increase our immunity. So we must have these products. Everything is a package for wellness.
And Herbalife, we have all these, as you rightly said. But
Yes.
I would like to ask you one last question, which I think we need to touch upon. Commercial bakery products, sweets, and fruit juices, what would you like to replace them with? Like you
Yeah.
said, methi seeds, karela, jamun, magnesium supplements,
Yeah.
all are there at Herbalife. Anything else you'd like to add?
We
And
have, yeah, we can have spinach extract. It's very, very good. We can have turmeric. Every household has haldi. It has got anti-inflammatory properties. It has got antioxidant property. We can add that. We can use ajwain. We can use kali mirch. We can use all these herbs India has. They go a great way, in giving us things. And all the local produces, which is healthy. Winter greens are healthy. They are loaded with micronutrients. They are loaded with magnesium, selenium. They are loaded with water. You can eat your water through these winter greens. So we must have local produce, add them, because they are rich in iron and so many things. So have seasonal food, what I mean to say. And we should try to have unprocessed food, especially when we are shopping. The foods which have no ingredient list means you're having healthy. If you have ingredient list, try to see that the ingredients are minimum. That means they're less processed. Okay, we must look for labels. We must see, we must buy foods which have less of trans fats or hydrogenated oils, because they are the ones which are responsible for our heart health. So what I mean to say is trans fats are responsible for cardiac disease. So we must look for products which have less of trans fats or hydrogenated oil. And take foods which have less preservatives, not processed. Eat local and seasonal. So that is healthier.
absolutely, and very good insights there. And on that pragmatic note, I'd like to thank you for joining us for today's conversation, which is so required, not only in India, but globally, to make us aware of the right nutrition habits for a healthy India. We hope you all enjoyed the session. Let food be our medicine. Let us begin to strengthen our immunity. And remember, every machine or system needs a break. Our digestive system and body also need a break to detoxify ourselves, as Dr. Lavlina mentioned. After all, health is wealth, and it is the need of the hour to invest in the same. Thank you, Doctor, for joining us today and sparing your valuable time. I'd like to thank Herbalife Nutrition, who have always supported us in these endeavors, the Josh app, Daily Hunt, One India, and the Metro app. And of course, a special shout out to FSSAI, Eat Right Foundation, and Herbalife Nutrition once again for supporting us. Thank you all for watching. Namaskar. Namaste. I'm Nidhi Kumar, your host for today's session, and we're extremely excited to bring to you the Eat Right initiative of the FSSAI, acknowledging our broadcasting partners, the Josh app, Daily Hunt, One India, and the Metro app. We're really, really happy to be supported in our endeavors by Herbalife Nutrition. And together, we'd like to extend a very fervent welcome to all our viewers. It's a cliche, really, but health is wealth, and it's no matter how you look at it. Living a healthier life might seem like a tall order. The nutrition, the exercise, the inner happiness, having some friendly advice at your disposal whenever and wherever you need it makes it easier and more fun. To talk more on this today, we have with us Dr. Priya Prakash, who's a healthcare entrepreneur and the founder and CEO of HealthSetGo, with a vision to ensure every child in India grows up healthy. Under her leadership, the organization has become India's leading healthcare organization for school, impacting students across 75 cities. She has been recognized by Forbes 30 Under 30 Asia and India in Healthcare and has been the recipient of Global Citizen Prize, the Culture Women's Initiative Award, the Unilever Young Entrepreneur Award. Priya is also the Advisory Council member for Youth Mental Health at Horizon Global and a member of the Future Generations Commission on Health and Climate Change, among many other organizations. She holds a degree in mathematics from Lady Shriram College and an education in social entrepreneurship from INSEED. Well, leaving a comfortable job and starting your own venture may sound very exciting, yet Priya Prakash decided to set off by herself. So, Priya, how did you realize that HealthSetGo or the healthcare sector is something that you want to dedicate your time and resources to?
Yes, thank you, Nidhi, and thank you so much for having me on this platform. I think, when you gave the intro about the cliche that health is wealth, I think it's something that if I need to talk about my journey, it's something that I never understood from a young age. And when I was younger, actually, it was, I was from a family which is very much into, food as a central part of our family dynamics. So in our house, every day we would have really indulgent delicious food, and there was really no focus on health being a part of that, where my younger sister and I, we were part of this ecosystem. And as we grew up, I realized that I was putting on a lot of weight, but my sister and maybe other family members weren't really facing that issue. But for me, that issue started building up a lot. And when you're younger, your family is focusing more on academics as the main thing and not really sports or anything like that. So as I started putting on more weight, and I started struggling a bit with my body, I also did not really find it attractive to join any sports or anything. So I was not physically active. I was eating unhealthy food, ice cream every day, chips every day. It was very normal. And if you see, it's very normal in most households today. It's not something wrong or anything that you're doing badly about your child. But what my family possibly did not realize is how badly it was affecting my health. And when in a younger age, it's fine. But as you grow older, you start noticing your own body, you start looking at yourself in the mirror, and you want to like the way you look. But unfortunately, due to my weight, I never felt confident about myself, because there were a lot of people in my school, how children bully each other. That was something that actually happened to me all throughout my childhood in school. And it really demotivated me. It really impacted my self-esteem. It really made me an insecure person. So not only was my physical health impacted, but I would also say my mental health, my confidence level, even my academic performance was impacted by this, because I was just not as confident as I used to be. And when I came to college, and like you mentioned, I was studying in Lady Shriram, which is an all girls college. It was, sometimes you feel even more judged. You start comparing yourself to people around you. And in today's day and age of social media, when there's so much comparison going on, every time you open social media, you see somebody else who is often very unrealistic body and body weight. You start judging yourself. And that's what happened to me. And so I was feeling very helpless, that I don't know what to do about this. And I tried a lot of unhealthy things. I remember people would tell me, Priya, stop eating, you lose weight, stop doing this, you lose weight. But none of these things were healthy. And I started doing research, and I realized that there has to be a healthier way to deal with this. And I'm so lucky and fortunate that just to cut a longer timeline short, I was very fortunate to come across fitness as a main way for me to manage my weight. I was introduced to a weightlifting coach, actually. And it was a bit unconventional, but he really taught me that more important than my weight, it's for me to be strong. It's for me to, feel good about myself. Weight is just a number. And I think with that mentality, I started working on my health and fitness. It took me a lot of time. It was a lot of struggle. And I think anybody who's, I'm sure even if you have decided to change your habits or lose weight or become healthier, it's not easy whatsoever. People who say it's easy, That's lucky for them, but for most people it's not that easy. So it took me 6-7 years, I would say, to get to a point where I was proud of my body, I was proud of who I was, and I was healthy and fit. And throughout this time, from college up until that point, I was working somewhere, and I very quickly realized that health is something that I was really passionate about. Because once you become healthier, you start reading up more about it. I started reading on nutrition, I started looking at my sleep. Everything in my life had changed, and I had become from somebody who was always demotivated and somebody, who could never achieve their goals, to becoming somebody who was so much more energetic, more motivated in life. So not only did it help me become more confident, but it helped me become a much better person. And that's when I realized that I wish, somebody had come up to me and told me when I was younger that this is the healthy way of managing your weight. I don't think I would have had to, first of all, face all those years of being insecure, and I would have had a healthier life right from the beginning. And I was so passionate about this. I said, this is something that I want to dedicate all my energies to. Because the more you think about it, if you look at India as a country, we are one of the most unhealthiest countries in the world right now. Every family, you tell me one family where nobody has a disease, and it'll be an exception. Every family has someone or the other with some or the other disease. They have had to go to the hospital. Someone is eating medicines for high blood pressure, somebody is having diabetes, somebody is having cancer, somebody is having heart problems. And even in my family, that's the case. But what people don't know about these diseases is that they're related to our lifestyle. A lot of people think, they just happen, but they don't. These are things you can prevent. And that is where I realized that not only is health a gift, at a young age, but you can prevent so many diseases when you grow older, which is why I decided to start my organization. So today, what HealthSetGo does is that we start very young. We go to the children when they are just forming their habits, when they're just forming their thought processes on health. And that is where, in the school system, we want to insert health as a crucial part, so that every child, like you were saying in my introduction, that every child grows up healthy. So today we are working with schools across the country. We are working with more than 250,000 children across the country in order for them to grow up healthier in their life.
Are you devising curriculum for these children in schools so that they look at nutrition related aspects? And how do you, Priya, look at innovation as an accelerator? You innovated, right?
Right. We very quickly noticed that health is, something where unless there's a problem, you don't address, and even with children, especially with children, in fact, I would say, you would never look at a child and say, oh, they need to go to a doctor, they need to get a health checkup done, or they need to, because they largely are not, don't have those diseases, those chronic diseases, right? But that's not the case. The thing is, there are a lot of early signs that you can actually detect and diagnose so that things don't get more serious. That is the reason why a lot of adults are requested to do an annual health checkup. You go to the doctor, get your blood test and all done as an adult. But even children need that. In fact, CBSE, ICSE, all these boards that are out there, they recommend that every child in schools has one health checkup a year. Now, what used to happen is in schools is that, all of us have gone through this. School may height, weight, that used to be the thing. Height, weight, and that's it. It's over. Your health checkup is done. But obviously, that's not enough, right? So when we came in as HealthSetGo, what we wanted to do was that, first of all, let's devise a set of parameters that need to be checked for every child. So that's the first thing we did. We worked with some of the top doctors, devised a series of parameters that need to be checked for every child, and then we said that let's get good doctors to do these checkups in schools. So today, whichever school works with us, the first thing we do, before we even start with the curriculum, is that every child goes through an annual health checkup. And what we do more than that is that, बच्चों की the health reports, if you see, they're on like paper diaries. The children, the doctor would scribble something on a paper. Most of our prescriptions are on a paper, most of them, and we have to put it in some file. So what we said is that from day one, we want all the children to have an online health record, so that it's not that parents are lugging around papers and for 18 years while the child is young, they lose all these medical records. So we devised an online platform where after every checkup that a doctor does, that the team of doctors that we send to the school that they do, it's all online in an online health record that the parent can view. And not only view, they can also get recommendations about what is the next thing to do for their child. So if your child is overweight or obese, your child is underweight, your child has a dental problem, your child has an eyesight issue, this is the most common thing. In fact, girls also, they have PCOD, thyroid at a very young age. You would see that, you would notice all of these things. So it's very important that they get detected and diagnosed. So this was what was the innovation part that we bought in, that let every child have an online medical record, and let's track this information, every year. So if we see that the child between from one checkup to another checkup, it's getting worse or better, we can actually guide the parents. We can connect the parents online to a doctor, to a mental health counselor, anything that they need, that they should be able to have that at their fingertips online. So that's what we believe in terms of our innovation side of it. And then in the school, of course, the health curriculum is something which we definitely have for all our schools.
So, are you saying that you send these doctors to all schools and there is a team of doctors? What are the verticals that the doctors look at
Yeah, so the verticals
other
that
than dental and um, comorbidities, I guess?
Yes. So what they look at is, so it's a physical examination. So it's a head to toe check. So a general physician actually does that, or a pediatrician does that, depending on the age of the child. Then you have a dental checkup, an eye checkup, and a growth assessment, which has your height, weight, BMI, BP, pulse, all of those vital signs which are checked. So these are 5 reports that the parent actually has access to after this. So if they need to see a dentist, for the further procedures, or they need to get a blood test done because their child is deficient in iron, so many girls have anemia, for example. So these things are something that we can detect and diagnose. And over and above that, a recent vertical we have added because of the pandemic is an emotional wellness assessment as well. And this is being done online. Schools can give it out to parents and students, and it's a metric to assess if a child needs any kind of further intervention when it comes to their mental health. Because of the pandemic, I think physical health we all know is affected, but mental health is something that is not talked about enough, and especially with children who have stayed home now for more than 2 years. The kind of issues that they're facing are just so many, right? So these are things that we actually assess.
Absolutely. Um, what, according to you, is Eat Right India doing with FSSAI, and how could we map it further with HealthSetGo?
Yes, so actually, with the same vision, I think Eat Right India also has the same vision to inculcate these healthy habits, within people when it comes to health and nutrition. And specifically when it comes to children, we were so happy to collaborate with FSSAI and Eat Right India, where there's an entire curriculum on nutrition itself that was disseminated across to all the schools that we are currently partnered with. And beyond that, we were also involved in this amazing thing called the Eat Right Creativity Challenge. You must have heard, or you would have seen that, where children came forward, and there was a poster making competition. There were all these creative outlets that the students had to promote the messages of nutrition, eating healthy and eating right. Because I think that's one thing that really a lot of people need to learn, and children specifically need to start from a young age. So I think nutrition, because it's such an important vertical, such an important aspect, we're very happy that we could partner, and we could actually be one of the nodal agencies that took it across the country. And apart from that, we actually during COVID came out with guidelines for serving food safely in schools. So these are canteen guidelines that we came up with, because during COVID a lot of schools serve food, you would notice that, and they also didn't know how to do it safely with the right protocols. So that's again something we worked on, and that was actually launched by the health minister as well as a joint document between HealthSetGo and FSSAI. So I think this is a very long term engagement that we have, and it's on a very important topic of eating right, nutrition and health. So I totally and completely believe in this movement.
Tell us about preventive health programs, Priya.
So as I was mentioning, preventive health is, in my books, the best investment that anybody can make, including our country.
Correct. We only talk of promotive health in India. Preventive is more important.
Preventive is more important, and it's more difficult because at this point you might think there's nothing wrong with me. Only when there's something wrong is when we actually seek out for help. But if you prevent it, if you look at preventive measures, the kind of, today how many people are in the hospital who cannot afford to be in the hospital? Today how many people are spending lakhs of rupees on their medical treatments? But if they had taken preventive measures, a lot of these expenses, a lot of these issues could have been avoided, because you are going to be living a lower quality of life. You're going to have an irreversible disease. Once you get a disease, it's so difficult, specifically these non-communicable diseases, to reverse them. You can't, you're stuck with it for the rest of your life. So the best thing you can do is to prevent these things, and to make sure that you put in a lifestyle measure. For example, we tell all parents, that it's so important to monitor your child's weight from a young age, because obesity, for example, is one of the biggest gateways to most of these diseases. Once your body starts being in the state of being overweight and obese for many years, things start breaking down in our body. It's whether the direct correlation between obesity and type 2 diabetes, which is happening to people in their 20s. We even have some children with type 2 diabetes. You also have cancer, which is starting to go down in age, people in their 30s. So it's happening very, very quickly now. So it's better that we start at an early stage. We ensure that we get checked up. Checkups are so important, and it's all for all age groups. It's not only for children or adults or anything like that, or only for when you're above 50 years old. It's for every age group. It's really important. Even if you don't think it's not essential, it's really important to get it done. And from a government perspective, what I believe is that it's extremely important for the government as well to promote organizations like, for example, the kind of work that we are doing in preventive health. It's very important to promote that, put more budgets behind it, so that more and more people become aware. Right now, most of the investments are going into hospitals and drugs and pharmaceuticals. Not that they are not needed, but they come in after the damage is done. So the person is, they have to have those medicines for the rest of their life. They have to be in the hospital and spend money. I'm not taking away from that, but let's invest in the preventive healthcare of our country. Let's invest in all schools of our country having a health program. Why not? So these are things that I believe have great ROI going forward for not only the country, but of course personally as well.
Absolutely. Tell us about healthy meal planning. That's also very important, and lifestyle factors for wellness.
Are you asking at a personal level or at a school level? What are the different things that can be done?
Both can be clubbed, personal and school level.
Okay.
Like you mentioned, a lot of junk food is served in canteens.
Absolutely. So, at a, I can definitely speak to a ecosystem level. So like a school, for example, or a corporate, or a environment where there are a lot of people that you are responsible for. For example, in schools, if you look at the different pillars, there's physical health, there's nutrition, there's hygiene and sanitation, and there is mental health. So what is a school doing on all of these aspects? How do you promote that healthy environment in a school? World Health Organization has this term called health promoting schools, and that term is not exactly there in India because many schools do not actually address all of these verticals. But if you're in a school environment, even in a corporate environment, I would say workplaces, school spaces, both are implied in this. School should look at, first of all, like I said, having these preventive health checks for their children, also for their staff, also making sure that everyone is covered at least once a year to have this. There should be a medical room in every school, which should be manned by a qualified nurse. Tomorrow, if there's any medical emergency that happens, there needs to be a proper person there to take care of it. The school should look at fitness, not only sports. Every child is put into cricket, basketball, something else. But what about general fitness? Let's say you're not interested in sports, then what? Fitness is something extremely important that should be there as a generalized metric as well. And every school should look at mental health as one of the key aspects. If a child is not mentally healthy, it's very difficult for them to perform academically as well. Right? So these are the areas that a school must look into, have a counselor in school as well if they can be afforded. And if a school finds itself in a position where they feel like we cannot do all of these things, then outsource it to organizations like ours or some other organization. But don't ignore the fact that these things need to be incorporated into the environment. Hygiene and sanitation also needs to be maintained, right? So nutrition education needs to happen, like we just discussed. So all these things are very important at that ecosystem level.
Absolutely. Great insights there. One last question, Priya. If you look at innovation as an accelerator, what are the next big 5 steps that HealthSetGo is planning to take, say, by the end of the year?
So for us, innovation is actually one of our core values. Like we really do believe that, because we are at the frontier of children's health and preventive health, that we need to bring in technology in a big way into the way things are happening right now. If you look around, healthcare delivery has changed. It's not only everyone from going to the doctor as the only way, they are looking at their phones and using their phones as the main way to access doctors, right? So what we are doing at HealthSetGo is that we are not only taking the health checkups and everything that we do with children, as I already said, but using that information to give parents more intelligent recommendations as to what is to be done. And not only recommendations, we want to be able to provide most of these services online for parents. I'll give you an example. For example, if a parent has a child who is overweight or obese, now the recommendation is, of course, to make the child follow a nutritional plan. And earlier, as HealthSetGo, it was very difficult for us to go physically and provide such a thing. But because of technology, we can easily connect the parent to a nutritionist that is with us and make sure that we are following the child through a 6-month plan and seeing the improvement in that child. Similarly, if we realize that a child is suffering from anxiety, we can connect them online to a psychologist. So now there are no boundaries, there are no issues, that we face. So what we want to do is, in every stage of a parent's life with the child, whether the child is 2 years old and they need to get a vaccination done, or whether a child is 14 years old and they are facing a mental health issue, whatever be the problem, we are going to provide an entire end-to-end solution and products online, so that parents can have a centralized child care solution. Because that is the only way that we believe parents can actually help their child, because parents don't have this knowledge from before. So we want to be able to provide it for them online using technology, and make sure that it reaches more and more and more households across the country.
And absolutely. And on that wonderful note, I'd like to thank you for joining us today
Thank you so
and for
much.
your valuable time. Our deepest and warmest gratitude goes out to Herbalife Nutrition, the Eat Right India initiative by FSSAI, which is bringing a huge awareness in society to make a healthier India. A special shout out to our broadcasting partners, the Mitro app, the Josh app, Daily Hunt, and One India, for helping us reach millions of citizens. I'd like to conclude by saying that if we invest in better nutrition, we can ensure a brighter future for our children. On that note, many thanks for watching. Namaskar.